Imagine waking up to the news that the US government is quietly hoarding your favorite crypto. Sounds a little bit like a conspiracy theory, right? Well, this isn't sci-fi. I actually dug into what would happen if Uncle Sam actually tried to stockpile Cardano's ADA. And even I was blown away by what I found. So, here is the story. Earlier this year, President Donald Trump signed an executive order for a US digital asset stockpile, basically a national crypto reserve. And guess what? He name-dropped Cardano's ADA as one of the potential assets, alongside other big hitters like Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and even Solana. So when I first heard that, I did a bit of a double take. ADA in a US national reserve. So if you're an ADA holder like me, or even just crypto curious, that's pretty huge. It's kind of like finding out your hometown hero just got invited to the Olympics. Naturally, the Cardano community went into overdrive, right? Our free Discord server was buzzing with excitement and skepticism. I mean, would the government really scoop up ADA for this reserve? The executive order, it didn't actually spill any details. No one really knows how much of each token they actually plan to acquire. And the feds are, well, playing their cards close to their chest. But here is what we do know. The reserve would be funded by crypto seized from criminals. Yes, you heard that right. Crime pays, apparently, but straight into government's piggy bank. Or crypto piggy bank, I should say. So far, they've got around $35.7 billion in seized digital assets. And none of that is currently ADA, at least not yet. There's some talk that maybe they could convert part of their seized stash, like the stablecoins, into ADA to kind of get the ball rolling. But that's just still in the rumor territory. Okay, so let's imagine then the United States government actually goes all in and tries to grab, let's say, 10% of ADA's total supply. Why 10%? Well, it's a nice round number for scenarios, right? And it's pretty huge. We are talking about 4.5 billion ADA tokens. Now that's roughly what a single kind of country might lock away in a vault, out of Cardano's max supply of 45 billion tokens. So let's just think about that then, right? 4.5 billion ADA tokens taken off of the market and put on ice by Uncle Sam. The big question is, what on earth would that actually do to ADA's price and to us humble ADA holders? Intuition would say that if supply goes down, XRP must go up, or ADA must go up, right? But it's not as simple as that, right? Those tokens wouldn't be burned or magically erased. They would still technically exist in the total supply figure. So it's kind of like when a company holds a whole bunch of its own stock in treasury, right? The shares exist, but they're out of the circulating supply. The key is how the market would react. A US acquisition of that scale would be pretty massive vote of confidence in Cardano. So it's is the US basically saying, hey, we think ADA might be worth having in our back pocket. Now that level of legitimacy alone could make a whole lot of fence sitters say, well, maybe Cardano is the real deal. And of course, if government's holding 10% of the pie, well, that is less ADA just floating around for everyone else. So scarcity tends to make things more valuable. Just ask anyone who's tried to buy, concert tickets after a venue sells on out, right? So you would expect investor confidence to get a pretty big boost. Institutional buyers, retail investors, and your neighbor who only heard of Cardano yesterday might all start scrambling to kind of grab some ADA before it is all gone, or before the price skyrockets. Now, I wish I could tell you exactly what price ADA would hit if this hypothetical scenario would play on out. But I can't see the future, right? No one can. What I can tell you is that analysts are pretty optimistic, right? I've seen community figures like one guy named SSEBI, I guess, saying that if the US really does adopt ADA as a reserve asset, and if a few big catalysts hit, think Cardano's upcoming Midnight project and other upgrades and partnerships, maybe even the ETF, well, ADA could be looking at that elusive $10 mark. Now, for context, ADA is currently around the 60-something cents whilst I am speaking. So $10 would be, a roughly around 1,500% jump from here, a kind of 15x gain. Pretty crazy, right? It sounds almost bananas, but in crypto, we've learned to never, say never. Now, Cardano hitting $10 isn't guaranteed, of course, but it is not some kind of pie-in-the-sky fantasy either if everything does line on up. Now, before we all start, envisioning Lambos and private islands, let me just play devil's advocate for a second. Because just because the US government in this scenario buys a whole ton of ADA doesn't automatically make the price explode, right? The price action would depend entirely on how the market responds. Right? If everyone else kind of FOMOs in after hearing the news, then yeah, buckle up, the price could moon. But if the market collectively says meh, well, though I find that highly unlikely after such news, then maybe the impact is more muted. Remember, right, crypto markets can be weird and counterintuitive. I would also throw out there, how did the US government even purchase such an amount? Is it on the open market? Where does it come from? The Treasury? Now, speaking of big moves and wild ideas, this might be a good time to drop in a necessary reality check. So here it goes. And this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we kind of got that out of the way. I know it's not the juiciest part of the story, but I've got to keep it real with you all, right? Because it's important. So, moving on. Let's talk about how I'm thinking ahead as an ADA holder here, right? If some huge catalyst, like let's say Uncle Sam does buy in big, is it even possible, right? I want to be prepared, right? Now, first off, I'm just not just sitting on my ADA, under my kind of virtual mattress, right? I've actually got my ADA staked and it is working for me and it is earning me rewards. In fact, here's a shameless plug for all of you guys. I do run a Cardano stake pool. The ticker is 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍𝗋, CHEEK. And if you haven't heard of me mention it before, well, you're welcome to the channel, right? Because staking ADA is one of the best ways to make your ADA work harder for you instead of just waiting for the price to moon. And unlike locking money in a bank, your ADA is not tied up. You can move it at any time, and you're always in control of your funds. So if you're holding ADA and it's not staked, consider delegating to a stake pool. It doesn't actually have to be mine, but hey, if you want to support the channel and our community, then check out the 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗋 pool and is open to you guys, and it is truly appreciated. It is a win-win situation. You get your rewards and it helps keep doing what we're doing here. Now, beyond staking, I'm looking at other ways to kind of stack up more crypto just in case we see a big surge. You guys know I'm always experimenting with new tools and projects in the crypto space, right? Well, one thing that I've been playing with lately is called Unity, and I've mentioned it in past videos, so OG viewers will know exactly what I'm talking about. For those who don't know, here's a short version. It's a community-driven project where you can run an app on your mobile device, or spare devices you have lying around, think smartphones, right? And you can earn crypto in return. Now, kind of like mining, but instead of expensive, ASIC rigs, you actually use regular phones. And I actually bought a Unity node a little while back, which came with 200 licenses, which basically gives me the right to connect up to 200 devices. Now, I'm not about to go set up 200 phones in my living room just yet. I'm starting small and maybe with 10 or so phones that you see here on the desk when the app does go live, just to kind of test the waters. Now, the cool part is I can choose what I'm going to be paid out in: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and ADA, all the coins I'm obviously really bullish on. So if that works well, then it's a neat way to earn more passively, at least earn more crypto over time passively, kind of like staking, but on steroids. Now, here's a quick disclaimer on Unity and anything like it. It's not magic, internet money machine, right? You've got to do your own research. Now, I'll put a link in the description to their light paper and their rewards calculator so you can check it out for yourself. Because while I'm excited about this concept, I always kind of preach that you've got to know what you're getting into. Now, I've actually grabbed a second Unity masternode. I actually grabbed 2 more with my brother, and here is why. I know that not everyone wants to shell out, for a full node and deal with 200 devices. So I'm planning to lease out some of my extra licenses to the community members who are curious about Unity but don't want the big upfront investment. Now, if it sounds interesting to you guys, then stay tuned on our website and in our free Discord server. I'm going to share more details there on how you can hop in on a shared node. Anyway, teamwork kind of makes the dream work, right? Okay, back to ADA and the United States government's crypto adventures then. Let's just say that this scenario starts looking more and more likely. Maybe there are some news leaks or official hints that they're actually seriously eyeing up Cardano. How do we, as everyday investors, actually get ready for this? Well, besides hodling and staking, which I'm already doing, another thing on my checklist of things to do to make sure is that I have access to exchanges when I need it the most. So if ADA suddenly starts climbing and there's a frenzy, then you don't want to be the person scrambling to set up an exchange account at the last minute, only to find out verification takes days or that the site's overloaded. Now, I've seen exchanges go down in the heat of big news. It's not very pretty. So that's kind of why I've got accounts on multiple different exchanges, and I test them out regularly. For example, I personally use things like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, LBank, Bilofin, BitGet, just to name a few. And there are some affiliate links on our website. So full disclosure, by the way, there's a link in the description down below that goes over to our website. And on that page, it has the links for all of the affiliates that are linked to all of these exchanges, right? Now, if you use them, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does support the channel here. And that is a list of all of the exchanges that I personally use. Now, I really do appreciate the support because it does let me keep making these videos for you guys. Now, the key point is this: you've got to be ready. Have a plan A, have a plan B, and have a plan C. If exchange A goes down or freezes withdrawals, you have a plan B, an exchange B to go to, right? Planning ahead like this, it can save you a whole ton of stress, and at least when everyone else and their grandmother is trying to buy or sell all at the same time. All right then, let's zoom out for a second here, right? Government interest in crypto, specifically ADA, is a bit of a double-edged sword. Right? On one hand, it's a bit of validation, right? I mean, it's how cool would it be to say, yeah, ADA is so legit that the US government holds a bag of it, right? It would change a lot of skeptics' minds about what crypto's role in the world can be. Now, Cardano has always been a bit of an underdog compared to Ethereum or Bitcoin. Plenty of people have written it off many times over. Seeing it as a kind of national reserve could actually be like a coming-of-age moment for ADA. And it's kind of like the tech world's version of going from garage startup to a company so important that governments stockpile your product. On the other hand, we do have to consider what it means for decentralization and market dynamics, right? If one entity, even a government, holds 10% of the supply, well, that's a whole lot of influence, right? What if some future administration decides to dump that ADA or use it to sway kind of governance decisions, right? If they were to ever participate in staking or voting, which they probably would, right? There are also what-if scenarios, right? Of course, right? The executive order suggests that they're going to acquire assets to hold, not to trade, but you never know further down the line. Personally, I find this a little bit ironic and a little bit hilarious that the crypto reserve would be built from kind of the well, I guess the fraudeurs, I guess the crime syndicates, basically crypto seized from all the bad actors, right? And the forfeiters, if you will. So the government could actually end up hodling ADA that once belonged to, and I don't know, some busted scammer or drug dealer. And here's the plot twist then, right? The diamond hands behind a national kind of crypto treasure might actually be the FBI's evidence locker or something like that. Now, you can't really make this kind of stuff up. All speculation aside, though, the very fact that ADA is being talked about at these kind of levels is bullish in itself. It shows how far Cardano has come, right? We're not just an Ethereum killer meme or a bunch of ADA fans just yelling into a void, right? We're actually on the radar of the most powerful government in the world. That kind of gives me a little bit of pride as an ADA holder, but it's also a reminder to stay grounded. This exciting news can, of course, make price swings, right? But fundamentals and long-term vision are kind of really what matters in the end. Now, Cardano is big. They're doing big things, right? From smart contracts to sidechains like Midnight, which aims to bring privacy to Cardano in a big way, by the way. And, maybe even that's why it kind of caught government's attention and the government's eye in the first place. So, where do we go from here? Well, for me, it's quite simple. You've got to keep learning, got to keep on building, and we've got to stay flexible. Right? Whether ADA hits $10 or not, I'm going to keep a dollar cost averaging where I can. I'm going to keep on staking, and I'm going to keep on exploring new avenues like Unity nodes to grow my crypto stack. So if the United States government wants to join the ADA party, hey, the more the merrier. Just don't dump on us, Uncle Sam. In all seriousness, though, I'm curious and cautiously optimistic here, right? The next few months or years will be rather telling, right? Will we actually see headlines about Treasury holding ADA? Or will this just remain a crypto urban legend? Now, I'll be watching very closely here, and you can bet that I'm going to keep you updated on this channel. So if something concrete does break about the Feds buying ADA, then we'll dissect it together piece by piece. Until then, consider this your friendly nudge to stay prepared and to stay informed. Crypto is one wild ride, and stories like this are exactly why we love and sometimes hate it. But one day it's the governments will ban crypto, and the next it's that governments will, quietly accumulate crypto. The landscape here, it is shifting right underneath our feet all of the time. All right, I think that's enough excitement for one day then. So whether you're a seasoned ADA veteran or a newcomer just trying to make sense of all of this, thanks for hanging out with me today and exploring all of these what-if scenarios. Right, we've covered an awful lot, right? From the US potentially locking up a chunk of ADA to how that could actually affect the price, to the ways that I'm actually positioning myself, right? Staking, multiple exchanges, Unity node experiments, all of it, right? The takeaway is this: hope for the best, prepare for every scenario. Oh, and here's one last thing, right? If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, then you can consider smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. I post content like this every single day, breaking down crypto news and sharing my own journey in this space. So join the community. We'd love to have you. And as always, stay cheeky, had to say it, and I will catch you all in the next one.